Have you ever wondered how to make a Kydex sheath? Let's go!
Alright guys, first things first, your knife needs to be completed and not yet sharpened. We're going to put 2 layers of tape on either side of the blade. We're going to trim them up nice and clean to the shape, and it's important that it does not go up over the handle scales at all. Next we need to measure how big of a piece of Kydex we need. We want it to go at least an inch over the top of the handle scales and an inch below the tip. We're going to roll it side to side to see what our measurement is there, and then we want another 1.5 inches on either side of the blade. You can scribe and just kind of break Kydex really easily. I just happen to have this cheap paper cutter I got at a yard sale. Works great for all kinds of stuff. Same thing with this hot plate. We want to heat this up to about 300 degrees. You can use a hot plate. Some people have used their heat treating oven or a heat gun. Next, we're going to fold it over the top of the knife, making sure that we have enough of it over the handle scales. You'll see why later. And then we're going to fold it into the press, and then I'm actually just going to push the knife and just kind of wiggle it a little bit up towards the spine to make sure that we don't have any extra material on the top of the knife. 1, to make it easy to get the knife in and out, and then 2, aesthetically, we don't want a bunch of extra material on the top. What I'm using here is some thermoform foam, which is specific for making Kydex sheaths. It's really cheap to buy, and then you can make a homemade press just like that, or you can buy a fancy one. Now we're going to locate where we're going to put our eyelets. The first hole is very important because it determines the retention of the sheath. Retention is almost everything when it comes to a Kydex sheath, so we want to make sure that the location of that first hole gives us enough room to make the knife easy to get in and out, but also provides enough holding force to keep the knife in there. This is just a standard 1/4 inch wood drill bit. We're going to punch our holes that we marked, and then we're going to go ahead and countersink them so that all that little crap gets off of there. Cutting out the basic shape of the sheath is no big deal. You could use all kinds of stuff if you don't have a porta band, no big deal. But you'll see I'm cutting a little bit of an angle there so that it hangs past the spine part of the handle a little bit more. Now this is a problem if you, like me, have a choil on your knife where it's the full thickness of the blade. That's going to impede getting the knife in and out. So we just need to carve away just that little bit so that we have an open spot to get the knife in and out. When I'm shaping the sheath, I just kind of like to make sure that there's the same amount of material on the outside as there is between the eyelets and the blade itself. We want to follow the shape of the knife to make it look aesthetically pleasing, and we also want to make sure that we have a nice smooth thing that nothing's going to catch on it while it's either on somebody's hip or in somebody's pocket. Now, all that Kydex dust is everywhere. We want to get that all out. And because we're doing a taco style, there's naturally a little bit of a hole there that's going to act as a drain hole. If you were doing a sandwich style sheath, you might want to put a little piece of wood there or something to make sure that there's a drain hole. These things are going to be out in the woods. They're going to get water in them. Now, I can't even get away from hand sanding, even when it comes to sheath making. So we want to get this section really cleaned up. It's really hard to get in there with a grinder or with a buffing wheel, so we want to get that hand sanded. If you want to hand sand the whole edge, you can just go over it with some acetone, and you can get a pretty good finish. I know it sounds crazy, but just kind of buffing it with a rag and some acetone does a great job. I prefer using a buffer, but if you don't have one, that's a great alternative. We want to make sure that it's kind of nice and glossy looking, and you'll notice we haven't done the eyelets yet. That's because any of these processes that we've just been doing can scratch those eyelets. I use black ones, which are essentially painted brass, so they can crack and all kinds of stuff really easily. So now that we're all basically done with the sheath, this is kind of the last thing we'll do is put these eyelets in. I like to use one of these arbor presses. There are hand set tools you can use, but I have cracked those eyelets before, so the press is definitely preferable. We're going to pull off one of the layers of tape, not both yet, and just test how the sheath fits. Next, we're going to put a little bit of a thumb ramp on there. It makes it nice and easy to get the sheath on and off of the knife. For this, I use a heat gun. We're just heating it up a little bit. We don't even want it back up to that 300 degrees. We just want it flexible enough to pull that ramp up, and you should probably use some gloves here. As you can see, I didn't, but I have mechanics hands. I'm used to hot stuff. So, nice smooth ramp, keeping it tight on the sides so that it doesn't pull out from the rest of the knife on the sides, and then it should pop off nice and easy. One last thing I like to do is sharpen the blade while I've got that last layer of tape on there, and then do the final fit up once everything is pretty much done. As you can see, this thing pops on and off of there beautifully. I do want to show you where that retention comes from. It comes from this little bit of Kydex that we left going over the handle. And the design of the knife plays a big factor in this. That finger choil that I've got lends itself well to that little bit of Kydex folding over there and providing just the right amount of retention. That's something you're going to have to play with, get a feel for, and determine just what works best for your design of knife.
Well, there you go, guys. Hopefully, if this is your first time making Kydex, that gave you a good foundation to start with to make your first sheath. And if you made Kydex before, hopefully you picked up a tip or a trick somewhere in there that's gonna help you later on. Or if you're a customer and you just wanted to know, hey, what all goes into making one of these sheaths? Now you have a good idea of how much time and effort goes into another process of making a knife. For those of you just starting out with Kydex, I'm gonna throw together a list on my Amazon store of as much as I can of all the different tools and materials that you'll need to make your first sheath. So check it out in the description of this, my Amazon link there, and it'll just be the simple materials to get you going, and then you can find better stuff later on down the road once you decide how you want to go making your sheaths. One last thing, these t-shirts are now available on my website. I got a couple of requests early on and I never got around to it. I finally did it. So the Big R ERF t-shirts are on the website. They're 30 bucks a piece and they ship free. So go check that out. I also have a lot of knives available. This run of Stilicos is all on the website, aside from a couple pre-orders that sold. So go check those out as well. Same website, same link. Appreciate you guys. We'll catch you on the next one.